Thank you, Sunday School teacher, for joining us for this coming Sunday's Bible study. We're working together to plan and prepare. The lesson that we're looking at today is for Sunday, August 17th. This is the last of our 6 weeks, our 6-session study in the book of 1 Peter. And thank you for being a part of this, and I hope and pray that it's been a blessing as we've gathered together to do this preview and planning time. We've been talking about that resilient faith. Peter was encouraging those first century readers, and he's been encouraging us in living that resilient faith. This session, our final session, is entitled Victorious Faith. And in these verses, the point is that God will strengthen and restore me. And He will. God will strengthen and restore. When you go through difficulties, those times in our life when difficulties come, there are those who will attempt to minister to us through simple cliches. Maybe you've heard some, I know I have. You've been to the nursing home or to the funeral home, and you've heard people say, well, he's in a better place. They're in the hospital, and there's some simple cliche that they're trying to do good things. But we need to understand that simple cliches are not what we need. We need God. And in these verses, Peter reminds us that there are no easy answers for life's most difficult experiences. Peter provides insights on ways to deal with our difficulties that move beyond the easy answers. So let's look at these verses so that we can have that victorious faith. 1 Peter chapter 5 is where we are, so hopefully you've got your Bible and your outline as we go through this together. We're going to look at verses 6 and 7 to begin with. He says, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that He may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon Him, because He cares about you." The therefore that Peter uses here in this verse makes reference to the last part of verse 5. The last part of verse 5 says, God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. So Peter has made this statement about God does not like proud people, but He gives grace to the humble. And then he says, humble yourselves, therefore. Don't be a proud person. Don't be a person that is self-centered, but be a person of humility. Peter says to humble ourselves before God. Peter reminds us that when we humble ourselves, that is when we experience God's grace. When we seek to find salvation in ourselves and our self-worth and who we are and what we do or what we don't find God's grace. We find frustration because we cannot save ourselves. But when we humble ourselves, that's when we experience God's grace. You see, humbling is acknowledging our total dependency upon God. That we can't do it, that we can't fix it, that we can't handle it, but He can.